coming. Well, hopefully you guys are getting to know each other, because that's a huge goal here. It's just everybody gets to create community and recognize that we're not all alone here on our spiritual / educational journey, that whichever one you guys are all on. The personal journey, let's just say, into the mystery, as Terence McKenna called it, the great mystery. So we'll turn back to Runyon and learn more.
Did anybody come in during the break?
Craig's kind of new.
Okay, well, anyway, you'll catch up soon.
He's been to Peru, so.
Okay. Let me. One thing I wanted to do was, like a lot of people have had psychedelic experiences, so I was looking for how general psychedelic experiences compare with typical experiences of Santorini, and these are some things that I thought of, and maybe you guys can think of other things. Like there's the there's a sense of the like a thickness in the air in the room, or you know, like something palpable. And sometimes it feels like love, or sometimes it feels like electricity, or vibration, and that may go with a fluttering or crackling sound that somebody was talking about on the Facebook page, I remember, or buzzing or chirping. Often in Brazil they like to talk about the hummingbird, and I've heard other, some shamans talk about the sound of the hummingbird. But I've been in sessions where it was more like, in one case a helicopter, and in another case we were sure it was a flying saucer from Mars. Let's see. The sense of connection with people is like you can get to where there's no boundary between me and you. There's no me and you anymore. And even I've had experiences where it was like we were all like part of a tablecloth pattern, and then the spirit came in and picked up the tablecloth and shook us all out. This one here, extraordinary thoughts and senses. It's like you think thoughts that you could not possibly have thought of in any normal state of consciousness. And you sense something with senses that are nowhere near the five senses that we are taught or make up reality. Obviously euphoria and strong feelings. Hypersensitivity, we caution people that after one of our sessions, don't plan on anything more strenuous for the next day or two than spas and massages. And you know, your most beloved child can call you on the phone and it says, I don't want to hear them right now. You can actually have hallucinations not only during a session, but even afterwards. People talk about backflash. What do you call it with that?
Flashbacks.
Flashbacks. Okay. Like, what would be some shared experiences that you guys can think of?
Like images like the Jaguar or something, or?
Well, that's only if you've read those books or seen those movies, right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
But it sounds like it's kind of covered it. But so the next slide is here's what I thought. This was a great picture of shared experience, where it's like even more than telepathic. You're like everybody in the room is seeing something that's not in any ordinary reality.
Are you talking collectively?
How what?
You're saying collectively, they're all seeing the same thing?
Actually, yeah, and we one time after, a couple of times after a session, we went around the room. Did you see the school of mechanical fish, or did you see the creatures flying on the top of the room? Yeah. And not only that, but while you're doing it, while it's happening, you look at the other person, you know right away they're seeing it.
I wanted to just mention something from my personal experience. I feel like when that happens, that when everybody's vibration actually just shifts together.
Yes.
So it's not really the outward things that are shifting, it's you personally, like your frequency is changing from the plant medicine.
Well, you know, this is in the realm of explanations, and when you're in a scene like this, there's no explanation necessary. You know, you're there with each other and with this alternate reality.
Just like we're all sitting here in the room together in this frequency, what I'm saying is, at least from my personal feeling, is that you're all moving yourselves into another frequency together by ingesting the same plant medicine. So we're sitting in this space, frequency-wise, instead of this space.
So that's true, even if you go into a meeting room at work and having a discussion on finances.
And then you take ayahuasca, and shift yourself into another
At
reality.
work? That would be nice.
Hey, can I just intersect something in there? Because on that conversation, you know, when I was in Peru, the gentleman that I worked with, there were people from various countries, and during sessions, he would come around and put his hand on your shoulder.
Yeah.
And well, of course, you felt like you were talking, but you know, the people from Germany didn't know how the guy knew German. And the people from America didn't know how he knew English and that. But yeah, he was able to walk around and lay his hand on you.
Yeah.
And you could communicate, have a conversation, truly.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it was
And
really an
this
amazing
was
thing.
true with if you go to Brazil or you have the elders come up here. I've found that they do that here as well. One time before the session even started, the elder would just pass by my chair, and he knew me from other sessions. And as he passed me, he touched my shoulder, and I'm sure I had flowers growing out of my head. And that before we started.
Can I chime in on that as well? In my experience in Peru as well, we didn't have similar visions because we were in complete blackness.
Right.
So it was really individual in that aspect. But the feeling that I got amongst the group was just a connectiveness for sure. And then the Icarus, or the songs that were being sung by the shaman himself, even though I don't speak Spanish fluently, I found myself singing along to him, almost like I knew what he was going to say.
They're mostly made up of nonsense sounds.
Yeah.
Well, the curandero, or the shaman that I was had the privilege to drink with, he would actually make up his own songs along the way, and so they had a lot of meaning to them. But I know what you mean by the Icarus. It's a lot of humming, or just visual or noises and whatnot.
I'm not saying that they're meaningless. I'm just saying that they don't translate into anything rational.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm interested in finding out when you have a common experience like that. Is there a common transformational shift that happens at the end that's similar to another person's, or
It can be, but and I was a little disappointed a lot of times where we had this shared experience, and it was like more than being married or or in love with each other, and then we went our separate ways. So
that seems to be the thing that if you do have an experience, does it translate into meaningful, transformational conduct or understanding?
Yeah, a lot of times people come away from this with, as I said earlier, with a sense of mission. I found myself receiving, we call it receiving hymns. I have more than 1,100 of them now. That suddenly, you know, and I'd never composed any music before in my life, and I started just, you know, it's like some valve opened and never shut back down. You know, it's slowed down now, but a lot of times if I feel stuck, I'll and I won't, not with Daimi or anything, but just like if I'm feeling anxious or depressed or stuck, I will sit and meditate, and a lot of them come out of my dreams too.
And I think to answer your question as well, there have been a lot of cases where people go through these ceremonies to help overcome addictions to other substances, and it has worked. So there have been definitely lifelong changes that can occur from.
Do you know how that works?
I can't know. I don't know. I just know there's been cases.
Here, you're telling us.
Yeah, I'd love to know.
Are you answering the question?
Well, no, but sort of. I was just going to add to the experiences that I had when I went to Peru and worked with the shamans, with the Shipigos. Is, well, one woman said she was cured of brain cancer, and that's, you know, that speaks for itself. Yeah, it's a big deal. And you know, one of the things I noticed when the maestros and the shaman, we had one shaman, most were women, but he would come up to me during the ceremonies and he would literally suck on my arm, and then I remember seeing him get physically ill, like he was gonna throw up.
Yeah, the founder of our sublineage. Did you see the picture of the guy with the long beard? Pedrinho Sebastião, whom even though I never met him while he was on Earth, I consider to be my personal Pedrinho, godfather. He did that. He actually had been that type of a healer before he came to Santo Daime, and got deathly ill from healing people like that. But there are more elegant ways of healing, and I had been trying out some ways, and I took a course with this Sikh guy with the turban. And it turns out that he had it down to a science, and I developed it from there. And it's the way that it worked out, is, to put it in a very short nutshell, is that you set up a dummy aura that's not in your own body, that's out here, so that you have like a projected representation, and then you can take the illness into the dummy body, into the dummy aura, and do the corrections on it, and that way you don't have to make your own body ill. It's subtle, but it's a lot nicer. Next person with the glasses.
Oh yeah, no, I was just going to echo a couple of the things that resonated with my experience. One was the buzzing in the background. I'm glad that you had mentioned that was a common experience. The person had shared it next to me as well a little bit, but I definitely heard a lot of that humming in the background. And to me, the whole experience was very kind of like a teaching grandmother. You know, you go ask for kind of a lesson, she would show you whatever it was she had to show you. And a lot of those lessons were definitely ones that you could take with you. And did you know exactly what to do next day? Maybe not, you know, maybe some of these things you kind of keep reflecting on for a while, and they come out and remind you when you've developed to a certain point that you can act on that sort of lesson. It's a lot to take in.
But it does fill in over time, doesn't it?
I'm sorry?
It fills in over time.
Oh,
Yes,
absolutely, absolutely. And like I went into one ceremony in the jungle in Peru with the intention, I was like, really stuck with where I should go in my life, and I really wanted to try to listen to my heart. You know, what is this idea of listening to my heart? How can I do that? What would I want to do? So I was like, I really want to connect my head to my heart, to my higher self, and that's my whole intention for this ceremony. Please show me what I need to do. I go there and I go to see this, you know, the figure that would show up to me, and she's like, okay, it's done, it's been done, what's your problem? What do you want to do now? And it's like, oh, well, that was all I really had in mind, so I guess let's see where we go.
Did it work?
I quit jobs left and right now because apparently it's working, but I'm really trying to listen to my heart and
Well, that's why, a lot of people have this mythology that as you become more spiritually mature, that you'll become more reliable, or your life will be more predictable, or something like that. And that's not true. And in fact, I haven't had a job in 8 years myself.
Nice.
So your life does not necessarily become more organized, it just becomes more meaningful.
Yeah, makes sense.
There's also the idea that you start to learn after maybe a long time of doing them over and over again, that you actually create your reality with your mind, and that you can do whatever you want if you put your will to it. So that's my personal experience.
It's a nice idea, and I wish I could believe it.
Well, because you don't believe it.
It's not what I'm being taught. It's not what the capital teacher is teaching me.
I understand.
So what is it I'm learning? So it's not a sense of faith, but it's not like this free will idea or anything. It's like it's as if some level of me is spirit, and spirit keeps like trying me out, like on a game board. Like one of these games where your avatar gets more powers and more amputations and whatever, and once that has played out, then the spirit puts you down and tries you on another game, and that's what I sort of think is happening for me.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that it's definitely a subjective situation or question, and depending on your personal entheogen of choice also may be part of that as well, and also where you are personally on your own journey. So I feel like I just wanted to point that out, because I feel like we all have our own perspective on this, and it's important to just understand that it's the lessons that we're learning as individuals as we go through this that helps us to connect with our higher oversoul, or Amakua, as the Tahitian Hawaiians call it, which is your parent, your higher self that overlooks and knows the reason you came here.
Well, that's a very good paradigm, but what we are, if there's any preaching in Santo Daime, it's don't jump up and write to the president what you suddenly understand.
That's really good. Right. Well,
anyway, let's continue. All right. These are actual experiences that I've had in various psychedelic situations. In one case, this was on the big mushroom trip. I asked this one woman if I could push my arm through her head, and she said fine, and I did. As far as either one of us could tell, I pushed my arm through her head.
Those are some good mushrooms.
Yeah. I don't know what to take home from that.
Asking permission is important.
Yeah, that's a good
This is the one on the right is sort of like Art Crumb, who's always way inside his own head. Okay, so this one's about what might be different with Santo Daime as a religion and lifestyle than just having psychedelic experiences. So what came to the top was that Santo Daime is very much about serving rather than. It's funny because the name Daime means give me, but the culture is so oriented on serving that people who it's like a bar mitzvah. You take your star. It's called fardamentu, which means you take your uniform, and people who have committed to the religion, they do guardianship. They do they take care of things that the church and the community needs, and more of the Santo Daime communities in North America are moving closer together so that they can take care of each other and take care of.
Well, that's giving, right?
Yeah, that's giving, not taking. And I already talked about, one admonition we hear a lot at the beginning is, we don't hallucinate. And that is that once we have formed a relationship with the spirit that we drink, we say that we're drinking the spirit, not taking a drug, but drinking the spirit or forming a relationship with the spirit. And instead of having hallucinations, we're receiving lessons and seeing visions of better ways to live. So maybe some problem, like have one of these dreams where you suddenly see the solution to something that you couldn't figure out before, and it'll just show you. You can see, and not in words, but you see how you can be, how you can do, how you can relate. So it's not like hallucinating anymore at all. So it's very common for people who have been doing it for a long time. I've done more than 500 sessions myself, and to not have any of these dramatic, extraterrestrial visions anymore. At least not very often. We have something that we call vertical versus horizontal attention. So horizontal attention is you're in the session and you're all happy and look at him and what is she wearing and I wonder how his wife is or I feel like yakking to the guy next to me. And vertical attention is remembering our divine purpose and remembering the prayers that I started with and the intention and why I came to this session, to this religion in the first place, and keeping that attention, keeping that intent. The more we try to do this, the better the session actually works out. So that's what we are recommended to do. Let's see, we wear uniforms and we either sit or dance in rows. That could be rectangular. You'll see in some of the videos that they dance either in rectangular parallel rows or in a hexagon, and it's arranged so you have teenage boys and young men and older men, especially married. I don't know if that's a distinction. And then the same for women. So 6 different categories of people dancing like this. Let's see. And it's very, very typical for the participants to have a religious experience, a bona fide religious experience. And, not hallucinations, but maybe if you come from a Christian background, and I didn't come from a Christian background, but here I am with Mary here and Jesus here, and they're walking me through my death, showing me how I don't need to be afraid, showing me how I don't need to worry about how this next corner of my life is going to be turned. And so that was nice. There's so much telepathic connection in Sampradaya, and you know, other formats too, but that we say that there's a substance called telepathanine, as if it were an actual substance, but it's very common. That there's one session that I could not even speak for 3 hours after the session, but we were inside each other's heads. I could see other people's thoughts and dreams and whatever, and I could like ask them without words, is that what I'm seeing? And of course they've answered me by the time I've asked them telepathically. And this happens, a lot of reports about that. We talked about the hummingbirds and flying saucers and buzzing things. Well, you get shape-shifting in a lot of different kinds of formats, but we don't talk about sorcery in Sampradaya. Some shamans do. I get the whole idea of sorcery from Castaneda, I guess. But I have found that in sessions and after sessions that I can actually manifest somehow, change some reality, or even reverse how something turned out. And it wasn't from pre-planning, but it's like by putting my finger, even sticking out my tongue, I stopped traffic on a busy boulevard by sticking my tongue out. It was like a scene from science fiction where everything stops, and that's happened a few times.
Could you just kind of ask your definition of sorcery?
Well, it's my experience of whatever sorcery may be. I don't know who else has a definition of sorcery. Do you have some?
Oh, I've heard different ones. I was just wondering what yours was, what you were implying.
Well, Castaneda talks about sorcery in terms of having not personal power, but having spiritual power that from being impeccable and disciplined, and people who are very careful with their words, who always say exactly what they mean, their words are powerful and can manifest.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one idea of sorcery. And I find that the daime helps me to be that precise. Not always. I mean, I'm sloppy and stupid sometimes. But when I'm precise, things get manifested. I have a master's degree and a soon-to-be PhD from this kind of manifestation, because as far as I was concerned, I wasn't qualified, or I hadn't done everything I needed to do, and yet things fell into my lap. People changed requirements or waived things for me at the last minute, always at the last minute. I didn't have tuition. I couldn't go on. Suddenly, here's a refund from something, and I paid my tuition. You know, so all kinds of things like this. It's like a sense of fate.
So like synchronicity.
Is what?
Synchronicity.
Very synchronistic.
Or maybe creating your own reality through your mind.
Your words words.
Your words, your
I
mind.
know you like the whole creating.
Oh,
of
yeah.
You're just explaining that. In my opinion, that is what it's
I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm just saying that,
It doesn't matter when you're saying
there are different ways to think about it, and yours is fine, but I'm thinking a little differently. And I can't really tell you how.
I was thinking of synonymous there, the word synonymous, meaning what you're explaining in my mind sounded synonymous to what I was saying, not trumping or competing or anything.
Well,
It was
that's
more of a-
fine, that's fine, but you see, I like to get past words,
Agreed.
which annoys people a lot, but you know, psychedelic people don't seem to mind this very much. So anyway, greater understanding. Let's see if I have some pictures about this. So these are kinds of visions that I've often had with the diamond. So this is like what you can get with the vertical connection of feeling like you're in a divine level, divine realm. And I know you can get there with other substances and methods, but this kind of thing is sort of typical in the timing, at least it has been for me. And of course, with all the religious connotations and everything, that you get a lot of virgins and angels, but you know, that's only if you come from that context.
One of the things I wanted to point out in terms of the Mother Mary and the babies also could be Isis,
Exactly.
Osiris, and Horus. Like it's more of an archetype, so to
Of
speak.
course it is.
Archetypes, yeah.
And that's a nice thing. One nice thing about it is that you can see things for the archetypes they are. You realize that even if you were, even if you went to Christian Sunday school, you realize, oh, this is universal.
Right.
So you're right. I didn't go into this idea very much, but I found that I've gotten, as time has gone on and I've done more and more sessions, that I've gotten pretty quirky. And I took, there's an online screening test for autism spectrum disorder, and 32 is considered to be on the autistic spectrum, and I scored 38. And it has to do with being, intuition and how much you trust the unknown and things like this. And it turns out that people who live a psychedelic lifestyle, and I should really do a research project on it, I guess.
You're saying these things happen to people who live a little lifestyle?
Well, it happened to me. And
Because I was going to say, I do a psychedelic lifestyle, and that does not happen to me.
Yeah, but I've seen a lot of people get pretty quirky. But I'm not saying it's universal.
Cool. I was just kind of giving another perspective.
It has happened. I've gotten obsessive. It's very important to me where everything is in the refrigerator and where everything is.
See, I think it's had the opposite effect on me, actually.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I've gotten really OCD over the years.
Yeah, I mean,
Yesterday I was in my closet thinking, oh my God, I got to buy all new clothes hangers because they got to be this certain color green.
yeah. So this right. But it can happen, and maybe because I look back in my childhood and I really should have been diagnosed back then. As having the tendency for it, and I did have years of counseling to even get it, have a semi-normal lifestyle. So I already had the propensity for it.
But you're not saying that psychedelics.
Yeah, that's my,
OCD
I guess, the
are.
focus.
Yeah.
What's the?
I'm saying that this has become more prominent.
Well, do you think it's more prominent, or perhaps it
Maybe we
expands
should
your
take a
mind enough to
survey.
observe yourself and not find your true
That's
nature.
where I'm at.
That's what I was
You know,
thinking as well.
Maybe
Well, that-
you just didn't realize you
Sure.
were OCD.
Sure, I'm,
Just saying
you
what
know,
it's led him to.
I can recognize that, that I could probably be diagnosed with these things, but I'm very comfortable with it now. I've had, well, but I've always had bouts of anxiety and depression, but these days they only last for 5 seconds. You know, oh, here's that anxiety trigger, here that's started to feel depressed. Oh well, you know, and something comes in for that I know I received from the session, and I remember being embraced by God, or however you want to put it. And
So you're saying the psychedelic experience has helped you overcome your anxiety and your arts?
I'm saying that it also has exacerbated, it exacerbated them, and also gave me keys to overcome them very quickly.
Thank you for clarifying.
It's kind of like Buddhism. I've been listening to a lot of Jack Kornfield, and he talks about this idea of awareness of the self completely. That those quirks and those things that trigger you don't go away, but it's just being aware of them and know that they exist.
I think
is
they
that
can go away
self-awareness
too.
that can,
Well,
you know.
I really do.
I suppose they can go away, but, you know.
If you want them to, is all. I'm saying, if you're saying.
I hear you.
I'm saying if you want them to go away, they can go away.
No.
Well, it seems
I think it's how
to
much
soften your
Well, let's
response,
not digress
your
too much.
automated
Yes.
I mean, I think these are the
It
important
means-
aspects of the
It gives you a
conversation.
separation.
Well, actually, we're
See,
talking
I
about.
don't want to say that you're wrong, but,
I agree, you shouldn't say that.
no, I'm not going to say that.
That, man.
I want to like,
I'm saying I'm just giving you my perspective.
make
Other
an
people can
inclusive
say theirs.
umbrella for what they're saying, and how to do that.
But I'm saying this is less a discussion group and more of a presentation.
Yeah.
On Sunday
I was just trying to
time.
Yeah.
Well,
understand.
and we'll never get through if I don't finish.
Sure.
That's
if
what
I
I'm
don't
saying,
keep
you know,
presenting.
Right.
But it actually is an important point. There's a lot of good reports about ayahuasca curing alcoholism and addiction, but we sent one of our brothers to the Amazon for 6 weeks with a very powerful elder, and he drank the daime every day and did the diet and the disciplines, and he came back and held it together for a little while, and finally fell back into addiction.
Because he
and
went back
died.
into his old situation, didn't make any changes to the.
He wanted to change.
Yeah, but I'm saying like you go back into your house and you're with your same cats and you're saying
He changed a lot of
television
things.
and you're saying
All right,
Family.
let's just leave it there. We don't
Right.
know.
it's not personal. Trust me. I'm just saying. I was just
I
wondering.
hear you, and everyone has heard you now.
Right.
So let's go on from there.
Sure.
We can have a whole other thing, you know, in which,
Right.
you know, arm wrestling. I suppose, let's see. So what do we do with the changes? So my dreams have become more complex and directed, deeper connections to whatever I'm focused on. The higher senses can stay for days afterwards, and sometimes weeks. Big creative streaks. So I mentioned about how I'm composing hymns, and other people build buildings or create foundations, or do some service project. So that obsessiveness that I was talking about can easily and hopefully go into creation, which is good, because if not, it can become destructive. So examples are saving the forest or the environment, fighting for justice and freedom, and establishing one's own church, which I have done to a very small extent. People make pilgrimages. People who have lived this lifestyle, they stand their ground. So here you are standing your ground, and here I am standing my ground.
I hear you though, don't
Yeah.
think I don't hear you.
Okay.
I agree with what you're saying, for sure.
And many become teachers and healers. So, that's the other section. There's one video, just because we might not have time for all these slides that follow here. This is the organization of the Santo Daime Worldwide Church. So before getting into that, I want to.
We're almost at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So what happens at 9 o'clock?
We turn into pumpkin.
Yeah. Just kinda-
All right, so maybe we don't even have time for all that, but there's a couple of short videos here which give a sense of what the actual rituals look like. Where is it?
Yeah, no, everybody has to go.
Thanks so much.
I did have a donation thing for the meetup if anybody would like to contribute. I mentioned that earlier. Dues, 6 months. It's definitely a vast subject.
Would it be safe to sum up the one slide that I think a lot of people were struggling with by saying that this is a challenging path? This is not recreation. You're going to be challenged in a lot of ways.
For some people, it's like coming home, and one woman that I'd been in another spiritual group with for years, I took her to a session, and afterwards she said, well, it was a powerful spiritual experience, but I don't think I have to work that hard for my spirituality. So for some people, yeah.
It's the cat.
I'd like to chime in on
It's
that.
definitely not recreational.
For
Really good.
For me-
it's a medicine. It's it's a medicine.
Besides the hardest part of getting on the plane and going to a foreign country to drink it, was the actual reintegration has been way more difficult, I feel.
Okay, so this one's a baptism ceremony.
It's true, though, of any psychedelic journey.
I'll show you this for a few seconds. Adults, I actually took baptism myself when I was there. It's a lot like what you'd find in a Christian church, except with the Daime.
Do you take the sacrament for the baptism?
Yeah. So the next one is.
I guess that's my, is the sacrament, am I using the term correctly, just for the sacrament to call it, but is it used in all aspects of the church or just specific parts?
All but one. When I was in the headquarters, the compound, we had basically vespers, the Orus, which just means prayers, but it's vespers. At 6 o'clock every evening. They call it afternoon because the sun doesn't go down very early. And normally these prayers are done without Daime, but that's pretty much the only thing that isn't. This one is interesting. Oh, that's not the right one. Here we go. done after a few hours, and everyone is very high. So, so these kinds of hymns are called diversions, and it's like a relief from the intensity of the normal session. Enjoy. Yeah. Everybody's very high. Now, the darker man might actually be a visiting shaman. We had some when I was there. So I want to show you one of the dances.
Well, anybody have any last little questions?
I'm curious of the background of religion and how religion actually chooses whether you call it enlightenment or blindness or
How would you phrase that? Like, how do they achieve it?
yeah, like how this particular religion.
This is a special ritual, and I'm not sure what the intention was. But it's to give you a flavor.
This is Psychedelic.
Psychedelic.
And all these people that ingest ayahuasca.
They're very, very high.
This is on the side from all this.
I didn't find my name.
So this is the march step that they're doing. Oh, I think I know why.
In my experience, if they were really high on ayahuasca, I wouldn't even have been able to stand up, let alone sing and dance.
See, that's what I was talking about in terms of serving and we do all sorts of things like sing in other languages, difficult Portuguese. Some of the hymns are very fast or more complicated, and it requires us to focus our attention better than normal attention, way better than normal attention. So instead of just lying back and just having visions, it tells us to be actively engaged and to focus very intensely. So especially if you watch the guardians are watching to make sure everybody is okay. They're watching to make sure that the environment is okay, that the candle's not causing a fire. And I've had times when I felt like I was in 4 different trances at once, and I was still taking care of people. Guardians.
Do the watchers, the guardians, drink as well, or do they? The ones that are watching this thing, are they also high on ayahuasca?
Yes, very.
I wasn't sure if they were not.
All right, well, I guess we'll just
So that's what we'll close that.
thank you all for coming very much. We will be having it. I'll probably tomorrow or the next day. I'll plan for the next meeting. But right now, I guess we do have the unusual opportunity that we're right next to a bar, so I don't usually drink too much, but if anybody wants to go to fortune teller after, have some conversation, why not? You know, have a beer. So, thank you guys for the Kismet Center. Thank you very much. Great space.
I'm noisy on the internet.
That's, you know, embedded in the culture.
We had a lot of discussion on that. There was a lot more discussion. It's kind of more of a
Oh my goodness.
We go, Lou. Good session. Good session. It was good. I like it. It's a mixture of info and matters. For sure, man. For sure. What was the big event today? What happened?
I told you, big day at work.
Oh, you had the person that had
These guys want me to open up an office for them here.
Oh, yeah?